in the NFL. There's going to be an influx of fresh talent. They all begin that journey right there on that stage. We are so glad that you're with us here. It is a thrill to be at this event, one of our favorites ever. We can officially start because Swagoo did the wave. We got Swagoo, Mina Kimes, Ryan Clark, Dan Orlovsky. We have Adam Schefter and Peter Schrager as well throughout. Look at that
Dan,
smile.
why are your seats so high?
Because every time y'all make me drop my seat, every person I see in public goes, "You're so much taller than I thought," and I'm tired of it.
Oh, I can't
I'm taller than you, I'm taller than you, I'm significantly taller than you, and I'm taller than you.
Significantly? Let me see something really fast here.
Let the public.
Well, I can't go much higher, but all right. Anyway, Dan's tall. We got it. Let's get to a lot more here. We got to get to Adam Schefter as we've got a lot of stories that are flying around. This is Adam when all the news starts to happen. What is the latest 28 hours ahead of the NFL draft?
Laura, everybody's waiting to see what the New York Jets do at number 2. With everybody knowing what the Raiders will do, the Jets effectively are on the clock right now. And will they choose David Bailey from Texas Tech, or will they go with the Ohio State pass rusher Arvell Reese? There's no doubt the Jets are going to go with one of the edge rushers. Everybody in New York is on edge, waiting to see which edge they actually go ahead and pick. And then, of course, the questions will become, where does Jeremiah Love go? And there's been some speculation that the Arizona Cardinals, who would like to move Adam number 3, if they can't, that Jeremiah Love would be in the conversation to go number 3. Doesn't mean they'll pick him, but they'll talk about him. But the Cardinals would prefer to trade out if he doesn't go there. And the way to get a quarterback that a lot of people have linked to Arizona.
Adam, we're keeping you close by because, as we all know, breaking news happens on this day. It happens tomorrow and the next day. If anything happens, we're going right back to you. Keep us updated on everything. Let's key in on George Pickens just a little bit more, as there has been some news happening today with the Dallas Cowboys. He had a career year across the board in his first season in Dallas, right? Then in February, the Cowboys announced he would be placed on the non-exclusive franchise tag with a July deadline to sign a long-term deal. But earlier today, Dallas announced no long-term deal will be happening. Listen to this.
We've made a decision that we're going to have George play under the franchise tag, which won't be a first for us. So there won't be negotiations on a long-term deal. But you know, that's certainly not a first for this organization, and certainly won't be a first in the league. Let's start with the fact it's not easy. You know, having 2 receivers being paid top of the market. I mean, that's obviously a stretch, especially when you have other great players on your team. A quarterback that's been here being the highest paid player in this league for many years now. The other thing is the newness of George being here. And I think George has just done an amazing job. I mean, he's exceeded all expectations. I think anybody, or we wouldn't have gotten him for a 3rd-round pick.
Okay, so that was one part of the press conference there in Dallas today as we welcome in Jeff Darlington. You were covering all of it, and it was kind of wild and crazy. What was going on out there, Jeff?
Well, Laura, if the chaos, the surreal nature of this pre-draft press conference was any foreshadowing of what's to come tomorrow during the draft, the Cowboys is the place to be. That happened in the 34th minute, what you heard there from Stephen Jones of this pre-draft press conference, talking about the fact that they will not negotiate with George Pickens and they will have him play on the tag. That was after Jerry Jones is sitting at his lectern with the microphone in front of him and says, "Oh, look over there, the president's about to walk through the door." All of us look up and Bill Clinton walks through the door, and 10 seconds later is now greeting Jerry Jones, who stands up and trips over as he's trying to then greet Bill Clinton. I understand, stay with me here, this is all very bizarre. But again, this is a half hour into this press conference that we learned about George Pickens. Now, before that, though, Jerry Jones also elaborated on draft plans that could go in any direction. This is a team with 2 first-round picks, very defensive needy team. We could see them going with a linebacker. We could see them going defensive back, maybe even pass rusher. But Jerry Jones also pointed out, again, before the Pickens stuff, that this is also a team that could go offense. Back in 2020, with the 17th overall pick, this was also a defensive needy team. They selected C.D. Lamb. Jerry Jones pointed that out this time around. So the question becomes, what do they do with George Pickens if, say, they decide to draft a wide receiver at 12? Do they trade him during this draft and get a day 2 pick? There is so much on the table here in Dallas, and I thought that the tone of the press conference set the table for what's to come here at the Star.
Ooh. I like what you're throwing out there, Jeff. Great stuff. We'll be back with you in just a little bit. And Jeff mentioned what Jerry said potentially about offense. Brian Schottenheimer said at the league meetings, Marcus, that don't just get tied up in thinking that these early picks are going to be spent for the Cowboys on defense. But now that you consider this George Pickens element of it all, what do they need to do with this?
Well, the George Pickens is not shocking to me.
Yeah.
Dallas has a number of holes that need to be filled, and I'm not sure financially they wouldn't be too strapped with signing George Pickens and not being able to build out the rest of the team. Always remember this, and this is one thing, for as critical as I am about things that Dallas does, they draft as well as anybody in the NFL. And not only do they draft well, their rookies contribute right away. Now, they stick to a lot of line of scrimmage positions, a lot of places where guys can come in and be a factor. But even with CD and having success with him as a wide receiver, I remember when they got Dez Bryant when I was in Dallas, and everybody was like, whoa, Dez Bryant became the #1 wide receiver. I don't think it would be crazy if Dallas went wide receiver in this draft. Not at all. And use for more capital if somebody wanted George Pickens that bad. It just would not be shocking to me. So when you think about what Steven said, I think that actually shows organizational competency. I think it makes sense. Now, it's not great for George. He had a phenomenal year. He wants to be paid as one of the highest wide receivers in the league. But Dallas doing business in this way with this particular situation, I think it's smart for this franchise for as many moves as I've been critical with them about.
Did you guys find it interesting that he said it's not easy to pay 2 wide receivers the top of the market? Because CD in 2027, his cap hit is $46 million. Yeah. So he's kind of already telling us we're not paying both of them in the future. He just said it. So it's like
they can restructure the deal.
Yeah, I understand that, but for him to say that, I think makes a clear declaration, and then it makes me think, okay, what wide receiver has to be available at 12 for them to take that player?
I mean, yeah, it has to be, in my opinion, that Jordan Tyson falls.
Is that the only one?
He's the only one I feel you pick at 12, especially when you look at the Orville Reese, Sonny Styles of it, right? If those guys begin to fall and you have 12 and 20 and you feel like you can get a transcendent defensive player or a defensive player that plays right away and makes a difference, because none of these dudes come in my opinion, and become George Pickens last year. And in my opinion, that was also the reason this offense was so good. Not only his fit from an athletic standpoint, but the way that he took to Dak and also CeeDee Lamb.
Mina, a lot of people have said, and there have been reports that the Cowboys have an appetite to trade up potentially. If they do they trade up for an offensive player or a defensive guy?
I think it would be a defensive player, and I think it's because picking at 12, there's a very strong likelihood the premium defensive players, someone you mentioned, will be gone.
Yep.
As far as who I would trade up for me, if the draft shakes out this way, if David Bailey goes 2, if the Arizona Cardinals take Jeremiah Love, and the Giants take Downs or Styles, and Arvell Reese starts falling, I really seriously consider picking up the phone and calling Cleveland at 6, who we know has an appetite to come down, because I think he fits not just the need, but also his upside is so tantalizing for this team. So, if let's say the Cowboys were to get Arvell Reese, the comp everyone's going to make is Micah Parsons, right? But I actually think their new defensive coordinator, Christian Barker, coming from Philadelphia, switching to the 3-4, Zach Bond, how they used him in Philadelphia, I think is how I would.
So you would say trade up and play him off ball?
Play them both. Yeah. Where the way they would use Bond his first year in Philadelphia, where yes, he would play off the ball, but then they would walk him down to the edge.
Sure.
They would mug him up. Sometimes he would go. Sometimes they would. Those are all things that Arvell Reese did at Ohio State. And to me, as he transitions to becoming a full-time pass rusher, you can keep him on the field that way. He can make an impact.
I think it also says, or you also have to evaluate what they feel about DeMarvion Overshown and the way they want to utilize him, right? Being able to pair those two guys and make sure that they fit, because I think a big piece of what we miss about defensive play, it is what you can do individually, but how those puzzle pieces fit together and the way Christian would want to use them.
Let me ask you this then. Let's in the hypothetical world, Arvell Reese is the trade-up option. Then that's a defense with 2 off-ball backers that are a little bit more like athletic players rather than big-bodied players in a conference that is more often than not a run-heavy conference.
Really good run defender, though.
Yeah.
Like
he's physical too.
Dude,
But you think he's big enough with those?
And what he does too as well is hunt. Like the one thing about Reese is when the ball gets going sideline to sideline, and we saw this with Overshown as well, they hunt, they run with great angles, they understand pursuit. Yeah. And I think that sort of speed is what we saw from Philadelphia being so good.
It's also a position of need. They've been trying to patchwork this linebacker position through free agency. They've drafted guys. Obviously, it's been a long time since they felt good about a off-the-ball linebacker. Remember, Micah Neville was that guy. He was always up front. You go back to when they made the trade for the guy to Cincinnati, the backer, or Minnesota this year.
Logan Wilson.
Then you think about, you go back to when they drafted Jalen out of Notre Dame. That regardless of the injury, they've been trying to find and solidify this position for a while. I don't think it would be crazy for them to do that, but I'm going to tell you this, man. I think David Bailey is going to be a factor for whatever team he ends up, as far as a guy that can get after the passer in these critical games in the fourth quarter where we see him come down to time and time again. Yeah. If David Bailey is there from Texas Tech.
Oh, he's not going to be there at 12.
No, I'm talking – but what I'm saying is, if you're going to come up and he's there.
But does the Pickens news change anything draft-wise today? Because
yes, absolutely.
It has to, because while I believe it's a defensive draft for the Cowboys, there has to be a little bit of thought of if that I would agree Tyson would be the guy. I don't think there's after hearing Stephen Jones's comments, there's a reasonable way that George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb are Cowboys in 2020.
They're not going to be.
That has to play.
They're not going to be.
It would be shocking if George Pickens plays this year at all. You have to remember the ties to Michael Parsons' agent, David Mulligetta. This is 2 times the Dallas Cowboys has refused to work with him.
I do not believe that this caught David Mulligetta off guard. That's number one. The other thing is, I go back to the linebacker spot. They've been trying to find a number 2 wide receiver forever.
Yeah.
In Dallas as well.
What's tricky for Dallas is no second-round draft pick. And I like the second-round wide receivers, but –
you got to go get a player.
Right?
That's big news today.
Jordan Tyson would be a great fit. Carnell Tate probably gone by the time
and Tyson is from Allen, Texas.
Yeah, good point.
Right down the street from the facility.
Okay, we're going to keep an eye on this, leave it there. Big news that certainly factors into all of it. Let's take a look at Peter Schrager's latest mock draft that he just put out today. We can see the top 10 here. It's coming your way in just a moment. We're going to bring Peter in as well. And interesting to see the direction that he went there. The Cowboys he has taking Mansour Delane, really the most guaranteed cornerback in this first round. You've got Jermod McCoy, who has some of the injury issues, but is a great player. I know he's a favorite of Mina Kimes. Let's bring in Peter here as you look at the top 10. Peter, what stands out to you about the strategy in and around the Giants and what they may do, getting those key picks now at 5 and 10? And welcome to the show. What's going on, dude?
Welcome to the show is right. Love being on with you, Laura, and the gang. Look, 5 and 10, John Harbaugh instantly becomes one of the most significant people in this NFL draft with the keys to this draft at 5. I have Arvell Reese falling to 5, something that is inexplicable a week ago. But the way that things are looking and just hearing from teams, there is a legit chance that 2 is Bailey, 3 is Love, and 4 is Styles, meaning that Arvell Reese could be sitting there at 5. I think Adam has hit on it throughout the day. The Ohio State logo is something that I would consider very strongly here. If it's not going to be Reese, could be Downs, it could be Styles. But Jordan Tyson has a lot of fans in that building, and the investment they have made both time-wise and the investment that they have made with energy to really learn and get to know Jordan more than any other team. Joe Shane, just 6 days before the NFL draft, flew to Arizona, took Jordan Tyson out to dinner. The restaurant was called Uchi. It's in Arizona. Look it up. It's supposed to be fantastic. They had a dinner, they had a meal, and then they had the actual workout on Friday, which he was outstanding. I don't know if Jordan Tyson's still there at 10, but in this mock draft here, 5, they go and they get Arvell Reese, who I think everyone would be shocked to be there a week ago, and then Jordan Tyson there at 10. But, Laura, it is wide open, and John Harbaugh holds the keys to the 2026 NFL draft.
Yeah, a rare chance for him. He hasn't had this many opportunities in his career to draft this high. And now he's got 2 picks inside that top 10. Thanks to Peter, more from you coming your way. What would you do, Mina, for the Giants with this draft capital that really is remarkable, the way that they can change their entire squad in one night?
It would be hard to say no to Reese there, even though the Giants, unlike most teams in the NFL, seem to have a surplus of edge rushers. I actually think if they were to draft him, perhaps Thibodeau would be on the move or something like that. So so many players. Styles, Downs makes sense. Jordan Tyson adding another weapons makes sense. I'm just going to throw out, though, I do think an offensive lineman should be under consideration for New York, particularly on the interior. Yep. Right now, looking at that tackles, they're set. You have Jermaine Illuminor. They signed to an extension, but you could draft someone like, I don't know, a Spencer Fano, who you could play both ways, starting wherever he's needed.
I think the ideal situation for the Giants is in those that fifth pick, getting one of the 4 dynamic players. Love, Reese, Styles, or Tyson, and then the offensive lineman at 10. I think that's ideal for the New York Giants.
It's interesting because the way that this seems to shake out, we'll see what happens tomorrow night, but some of the O-linemen, Maui Noah too, could fall a little bit further than we originally thought. RC, did you have something before?
No, I just think the big thing when you mention Downs is I do wonder how teams will perceive him in picking him in the top 10. I don't feel like at 5 that's a decision you make, and so you think 10 to 12 is where it could be. Which team is going to send that card?
I want to get into him more.
I may be off my rocker, but I think the Giants are going to have a hard time not taking Jeremiah Love if he's there.
I
really do, man.
The problem is the Cardinals may take him at 3.
I know. At
so
3, I know. I know.
More coming from us on this. We won't see Fernando Mendoza here. He's going to be celebrating, most likely being the #1 overall pick at home with his family. But he threw out the first pitch at the Marlins game. We're gonna check it out. Now listen, guys, he's not a baseball player. Okay, a little high. He didn't want to bounce it. Actually, really high. Now that I'm saying it.
Why is a quarterback?
Well, I think the biggest thing is you want to maintain the shoulder, right?
Yeah.
It's an unnatural motion, and you saw Stephen A. throw it 15 yards in front of the catcher.
How about this one? Mina Kimes.
No.
Mina.
I deleted this footage.
Mina uphold.
No one's supposed to see it from that angle. Okay.
That's not bad. That's
great.
right.
It's not bad at all.
He didn't even have to frame that up.
I knew you were going to say something about the distance.
I didn't love your walk to the mound.
Well, I didn't love the
I was actually
wind-up.
counting my steps because I practiced and counted how far
I don't like how
I didn't like your walk out.
The wind-up is awful.
Take the ball back. Actually, you know what?
It's straight
Other
on.
than not
Push
getting
it
the
a
ball
little
up
bit.
high, that's actually
You
solid.
know who gave me advice? Tom House.
I love
Tom House, legendary throwing
Legendary
mechanic
throwing coach.
How
Tell
many
you what,
warm-ups
I know
did
you was the
Coach Neo?
smartest person on the diamond,
in the building.
I know that.
So much energy in that wind-up.
Oh, it was fantastic. We're just getting started on
Smartest
NFL
person
Live.
is the review of my first pitch.
Was it a 2-seam fastball?
I'm only going to say great things about you, sis.
Ty Simpson, roll Tide.
Thank you, Marcus. We also are going to talk to Jeremiah Love. He joins the show. A lot of buzz around his game. We were just talking about him potentially going at 3. We're going to get to all of that. Don't miss it. It's next right here. Let's see the motion one more time.
Mina.
She went like this.
The thing, she rolled it underneath.
Hey, y'all,
It was an
I threw out a first
roll
pitch.
It was
and push.
straight on.
It was terrible.
roll to push.
Did you get a terrible one?
It looked like Phillip Rivers.
NFL Live is presented by Lowe's. Lowe's knows Sunday hits different when you've earned it. You're looking at the Steelers Hall of Honor Museum. So many greats to play here. The terrible towel. This place iconic when it comes to the game of football. An incredible city. We're happy to be here. We're going to continue to dive into this NFL draft as we are on the eve of the 2026 NFL draft, the first round coming your way tomorrow. We've got all the coverage here and taking a look at Mel Kiper Jr.'s latest big board rankings. Reminder, this is not a mock draft or prediction of where players will be drafted tomorrow night, but rather Mel's personal rankings focusing on talent. Jeremiah Love being the 2nd overall player is most notable compared to the mocks. Dan took a deeper dive into the #1 player, Fernando Mendoza, why teams are so high on him.
Fernando Mendoza's 41 touchdown passes were the most in the FBS last season, and the Heisman Trophy winner is lethal when he diagnoses defenses. Mendoza is very accurate on the goal ball, and he was top 5 in the FBS in touchdowns and completion percentage when throwing the football at least 20 yards downfield last season. His 11 touchdowns on those throws were more than twice as many as he had in his 2 seasons at Cal. Mendoza is also elite throwing the back shoulder and was at his best in the biggest games. He completed all but one of his back shoulder throws in the Big Ten championship game and the college football playoff, finishing the season with his 2nd most completions on that specific route. Mendoza is as tough as nails, and that shows up on the critical down and distances. He had the most touchdown passes in the FBS on 3rd and long, averaging more than 10 yards per dropback on those plays. If Mendoza can evolve and operate Clint Kubiak's pro-style system like he did his college system, the Raiders are going to have their guy at quarterback.
Fernando Mendoza deserves a ton of credit, right? He should not be ignored as the presumed #1 overall pick, so we're going to continue to give him credit, but also focus our attention on the second-rated quarterback in this class for most people, which is Ty Simpson. And we start with Peter Schrager. We welcome him and Adam Schefter back in here. And Schrags, your mock has a trade that allows Ty Simpson to be drafted in the first round. Tell us more.
I was really struggling finding a team for Ty Simpson. There is no team that is screaming, hey, we love Ty Simpson. However, the Arizona Cardinals obviously have a need, and if there is a team, they would be the ones that I would imagine would move up to come get him in the end of the first round. Truth of the matter is this, Ty Simpson turned down mega money to be an NIL player and go somewhere else in the transfer portal to go enter the pros. Ty Simpson could be sitting at his house right now. He's not. He's here in Pittsburgh with the expectation that he's going to go first round and be sitting in that green room and hearing his name called. I put him 32nd to the Cardinals with the Seahawks trade him back to for the 5th-year option and also to get in front of the Jets. But Laura and Adam, I could tell you, that comes with no certainty. This is me trying to fit a piece in a puzzle and give Ty Simpson a home. I still, to this day, and I didn't in my first draft, have a team that's waving to me saying, we love Simpson.
And there's no obvious fit right now, in part because the Los Angeles Rams traded pick number 29 to the Kansas City Chiefs for Trent McDuffie. Had the Rams stayed at 29, Ty Simpson would have been square in the conversation, and it's fair to say his odds of going in the first round would have been higher than they are right now. Now it almost feels like it's a crapshoot. It might happen, it might not happen, but most people seem to think the two teams with the best chance of getting him would be the Arizona Cardinals, who have the second pick in the second round, and the New York Jets, who have the first pick in the second round. Now maybe Arizona does trade up to a team like Seattle. The Seahawks are looking to get out of the back end of the first round. There are a lot of teams in the 20s looking to move back and accumulate more draft picks. We'll see how it shakes out Thursday night. Ty Simpson as a 1 right now remains firmly up in the air.
Yeah, I love that you guys brought it up. He's here. He wanted to be here. He feels like he deserves to be a first-round pick, and we'll watch all of that unfold on our variety of broadcasts on ESPN, ABC, NFL Network as well. And Dan, your praise of Ty Simpson, well documented. Why do you believe now, here just hours before we find out what's going to happen, that he is worthy of being a first-round pick?
Well, Alabama stunk last year, first of all. And so I think that's something that's been lost in the conversation is everyone probably narrates or believes that, well, he was the quarterback at Alabama, couldn't run the football. They couldn't protect the quarterback. They had drops that would just blow your mind. And so I watched a quarterback operate without a lot of help around him. And I understand that the final 5 games were okay. The first 9 or 10 games are absolutely off the charts. And so when I looked at Ty Simpson and I watched this tape and I watched how bad that offensive line was and how poor they were running the football and how bad the skill group was around them, I sit there and I said, there is no doubt. Look at this. And the receivers were 32 drops, which was 130th in the country. Maybe I'll be wrong tomorrow night, which I would be bummed about. I just believe those first 10 games before the injury are so good. It's easy for me to see him as a first-round.
Wait, Dan would be bummed about being wrong, Mina?
Shocking.
Oh, my goodness.
You're usually so okay with me.
Go ahead.
I'm stacking things in anger.
There's a lot to like in those first half of the season with him. I mean, I see a quarterback who has an NFL arm talent. I see a quarterback who was very good at picking apart zone defenses in a way that does translate to the pros. I think with me, the hesitation is just that he would be such an outlier in a number of areas. One is the inexperience, not a lot of starts. The track record is very small. But the other, and this is really what jumped out to me watching on tape, is just the frame. He is undersized. And when you look at the history of quarterbacks under 6'1", 250 pounds who have started an entire season, it is a very short list. I think we have it here. I mean, Russell Wilson, who came into the league and put on weight. Kyler Murray,
played a ton
special
of college
athlete.
football.
Played a lot of college football. Okay, here we go. So Seneca Wallace, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, Bryce Young. That's it. If you expand it to over that, you start bringing in Caleb Williams, who's stouter. Brock Purdy, he's heavier as well. It is a very small group. And Dan, you know this, it is harder to play the position when you are that small. And not just from a vision standpoint, and I do think that shows up sometime in the pressure when he gets a little bit anxious in muddied pockets, but the frame, the durability is a concern of mine watching him.
The durability thing I could have a conversation with. I don't think the size, I watch him throw over the middle of the field like an absolute savage. So he sees it. The durability thing, and people are, Joe gets hurt, Lamar got hurt, Patrick got hurt, Josh got hurt.
Everybody gets hurt, but there's a reason why we don't see a lot of quarterbacks that size in the NFL. And the thing about the division, one more thing about that just really quickly, he does throw over the middle. He's going to have to play super fast.
He does.
In a way that, like Brock Purdy learned how to do in the NFL, because I do see when the pocket gets muddy, that's where the frame starts to show up, and he gets a little bit, that's where the numbers start to fall off in the performance.
Swag, there's no denying the sample size, though, that Mina is illustrating here. There's just not that many quarterbacks at that size that have done it well.
Yeah, look, if this was the draft before the new format and the new pay scale, Ty Simpson wouldn't be going first round. But you could take a shot on a guy late in the 20s now because, one, you're not hamstrung by what you have to pay him, and two, once you get him, you can develop him. And he needs to be developed. All of them does, but he needs to be developed. He needs time on task. You get Leary. We were having this conversation before the show. It's just the same as you and Mina just did and I'm doing. In these draft rooms, how much time do you spend trying to convince yourself? Because at some point, you got to look at the board and say.
I don't think you're convincing yourself. I think you're convincing yourself maybe on the starts and maybe the size, but you take Baker Mayfield.
But this is where I was going with that, Dan. You still got other names that's going to be on that board.
Sure.
And as a group, you got to ask yourself, are we willing to take time for a guy that's probably not going to play, as opposed to somebody that can come in and help us right away, and maybe we better suited in the future? Yeah.
I know a lot of people have him mocked to the Cardinals, and I get it, right? But doesn't it just feel like he needs to go to a team that already is
somebody
set up
that's
really
already
well,
established,
has a quarterback, can
100%,
spend some time learning, and then eventually maybe develop and take it over. All right, another guy that may go to the Cardinals, that's Jeremiah Love, and I'm talking at number 3 overall. He is joining us next on the show. We'll spend some time with the Notre Dame running back and find out how he's feeling ahead of draft night.
Look at him. He looked like he's ready to run.
He's ready to go. He's also in his hotel room joining us in just moments. You only get this access on NFL Live. We'll be right back.
Turn the offseason on.
So that's how we feel about Jeremiah Love. High praise from NFL Live and well-deserved as we welcome Jeremiah into the show. Thank you so much for being with us. We're going to get RC in here because I know you two have a really close tie with the time at Notre Dame. But I wanted to start with the comic book because you and your dad actually wrote Jeremiah Star talking about some of the challenges you faced even growing up. How do you hope that your story can help others as you're on the eve of being drafted to the NFL?
Yeah, so, I mean, Jeremiah Star, I hope that what people take from that comic and just getting to know a little bit more about me, I hope that they take from that to always just be authentically you. Once you start something, finish it, be consistent, be disciplined. And one day you can end up where I'm at right now. The draft is tomorrow. I'm very blessed to be here, but, I wouldn't be here without, being consistent, being disciplined, and believing in myself. That's really the biggest thing, being a big believer in you and just stand true to that.
J Love, I love the fact that you and Pops, had something to do in the input in this comic book. But I've talked to you about the moments you both share before every game, the prayer that you pray together, the affirmations that he gives you. Tomorrow night, those things will all come to fruition on this stage. How important is it to share this moment with both of your parents that they sacrifice so much for?
Well, it's very important. They've been here the whole step of the way, and they've been the biggest support of my life. My dad believes in me, my mom believes in me, so for me to be able to share this moment with them is everything to me because I wouldn't be here without them. I wouldn't be here without God, family, football. So, I'm very grateful for my parents, and them helping me build a great support staff around me. And then ultimately, them just being a great parent. They raised me to be a pretty decent human being, and so people say. I wouldn't have the work ethic that I have now if it wasn't for watching my parents, work in the police department and do the things they need to do for my family. So this means a lot for me, and it's going to mean a lot for them. I'm just happy to share it with them and my entire family.
Hey, J Love, that was the most Notre Dame answer ever. God, family, football.
He's right.
Hey, you sound like Free giving an answer on there, man. You brainwashed.
Hey,
Coach Free brainwashed.
That was my head coach for 3 years. He rubbed off on me a little bit.
Jeremiah, as he should, right? And it's a good influence. Why are you the best player in this draft?
Because I'm a weapon. You know, I'm willing to do anything you need me to do for the team that has success. You know, I can block, I can run the ball, I can catch the ball, I can play special teams if you need me to. I tell this every head coach, like, you're getting a weapon out of me. You know, you're getting a guy that's going to be able to do anything for the team that has success. And, I mean, my track record, you know, I will bring a great culture to the team. You know, I'm going to connect with the guys off the field. You know, I'm going to bring, you know, a great perspective on the field, and I'm going to bring a great work ethic as well. So the team is going to get a complete weapon out of me and a guy that's willing to do anything for the organization and success.
You know, Jeremiah, a lot of times when you come from these winning programs like Notre Dame and you're drafted where you're projected to be drafted to, a lot of those teams don't have the infrastructure or aren't the best teams at the moment. What can you bring from a leadership standpoint, being a high draft pick, being an incredibly talented player that can elevate some of these teams early on in the draft who need that sort of person inside a locker room?
You know, I'm a guy that leads by example, so that's exactly what I'm going to do when I get to the league. You know, I'm going to come in with a great work ethic, a great mindset, and guys are going to feed off of that because at the end of the day in the NFL, we're all going to be pros. So if you're not trying to be a better version of yourself, then you're not going to be doing much for the team because it all really starts with you. If you can do your job and you can do what you got to do, other guys are going to see that and they're going to feed off of that. So my plan coming into the league is to lead by example, you know, lead by, you know, my actions. And hopefully guys can see that and buy into that. And we can build something special both culturally and, you know, on the field as well. So I'm coming into the league and I'm ready to be a leader. You know, I'm ready to perform. You know, I'm ready to be one of the guys people can look up to.
You know what, J Love, when I met you, you didn't have them 2 chains you got on right now. I want to know if you got any of this Marcus Freeman model influence that we saw in Esquire. You know, we talked a little bit about your fit. I mean, are we going to get some of this from you? Right? Is Coach Free going to rub off on you a little bit with the hand behind the head when you take the picture after the draft? Right? Listen now. Notre Dame pretty boy you now. You know what I'm saying, J Love? I need to get some of this now.
Nah, you can't get that out of me. That's Coach Free. That's him, though. That's him. That ain't me. That
ain't not going to give him that.
Hey, we're going to see him on the red carpet tomorrow. Jeremiah's on the red carpet tomorrow. We might edit. Oh, hey, that's all you're going to get. I like that.
But, man, best of luck, man. So excited for you, bro. It was an honor to watch you play 2 years ago in person. Can't wait to see it on NFL fields as well.
Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for joining us here, Jeremiah. We're excited for everything coming your way tomorrow. And we have our entire reporter group covered here. We got Lindsay, Theory, Sal Paolantonio, Kimberly Martin, Jeff Darlington. They're all joining us. Various reports from impactful teams. We'll be right back. Draft Profile is brought to you by Ego, power beyond belief. We're back on NFL Live. We got you covered everywhere, not just Pittsburgh. Reporters embedded with teams for the next 3 days. Jeff Darlington with the Cowboys, Kimberly Martin with the Giants, Sal Pal with the Jets, and Lindsay Theory, the latest on the Raiders situation.
Laura, the Raiders will select Fernando Mendoza with their first overall pick, but what happens after that? The Raiders have 9 more selections. Watch for them in the second round to grab a defensive tackle as they switch to a 3-4 scheme, and then watch for them to also try to snag a receiver who can eventually be part of a unit where Mendoza can thrive. And one more note, I spoke with General Manager John Spytek, asking him how many phone calls he's been fielding. Spytek tells me the lines are always open, and then he rattled off all of their outside backers, telling me we kind of live where they're all right here, right now, but there might come a time when they're not.
Interesting. Dan, what else do the Raiders need?
Well, I'm going to go with what Lindsay mentioned. I really believe that they need to get a contested catch wide receiver. They obviously had Jalen Naylor in free agency from Minnesota. Is it going to be Elijah Surratt, his go-to guy, specifically down in the red zone out of Indiana? It's something that Fernando's got great comfort in. Omar Cooper Jr. as well. Boston out of Washington. But a big-body contested catch wide receiver, I think, matters sometime early on.
Let's talk about the New York Jets with picks 2 and 16 for them. What will they do? They have 4 picks in the first 44 selections of the 2026 NFL Draft, so a lot of chance to make things better. Here's Sal Paolantonio with more, our top stories, and we're going to keep an eye on what he has to say.
This headline in the New York Post says it all. Everybody's on edge. What will the Jets do at number 2? Will they take pass rusher out of Ohio State, Arvell Reese, or David Bailey, another pass rusher out of Texas Tech? And that will influence a lot of decisions in the first round. At the 16th pick, that pick is open for business. The Jets could move up or move down, depending on who's on the board. Look for them to get another wide receiver in their wide receiver room.
RC, how did the Jets decide what to do at 2?
I mean, I think David Bailey is the easy answer. When you look at his Texas Tech tape, it's about the production. It's about the effort. It's about the ability to finish. And yes, Arvell Reese is an absolute freak, and you love what he could do off the ball. But when you're trying to fill holes the way you are for the New York Jets, you want someone that can get after the passer from the rush position. And then I think at 16, if a receiver falls to you that you like, you take him, or you move to try to get more draft picks.
And we've talked about what the Giants have done to set themselves up well. The trade with the Bengals gives them picks 5 and 10. Little smile there from Harbaugh. We'll see how big he's smiling tomorrow, depending on where they go. Kimberly Martin with more on the Giants approach.
Laura, I've been at the Giants facility the past 2 days, and here's what I've learned. 1, John Harbaugh, I'm told, does more draft prep than a lot of NFL coaches. And 2, he and Joe Shane have been in constant communication about their draft board. Take, for instance, Monday. They sat down with their coordinators to go over top prospects, and I was even told that a quick Harbaugh drop-in turned into a 2-hour conversation with Shane about prospects, until finally they looked at each other and said, all right, we got to get some sleep. Let's attack it tomorrow.
Marcus, how does Harbaugh attack the draft?
I obviously think you want to come away with 2 really good players on either side of the ball. And I've just been on this since we started talking about the Giants positioning themselves, is that I don't think Jeremiah Love can be an afterthought in these conversations. Cam Scatterbull coming off a major injury. You have Tracy that's backing him up. But you got a young quarterback in an offense that wants to be explosive. So if it's not going to be wide receiver, find you another playmaker outside of Malik Neighbors, and then get you the defensive guy at 10.
Let's talk about the Rams. Interesting to see what they do. Sean McVay's squad at pick number 13. They haven't often had a pick in the first round in recent years. Let's hear more from Les Snead on the receivers available.
I think in the receiver class, and here's what's interesting, whether it's this class, next year's class, last year's classes, whether it's college football, high school football, NFL, you got a lot of teams throwing the football. So in every draft, there are a lot of receivers on your draft board. There's just a lot of receivers playing meaningful minutes in all levels of football, whether you're the top option or the 4th or 5th option. The key is figuring out how they give their teams an edge. Does that edge help us?
Nina, what do you think the Rams do? Wide receiver at 13, maybe?
It's under consideration. Look, the Rams are stacked. This roster doesn't have a lot of needs. They could draft for depth, offensive line, or even edge, but receiver is one of the very few needs they do have, especially with Devontae Adams turning 34 this year. It's the final year of his contract. I think Jordan Tyson would be a dream fit for them. His ability to work the middle of the field on digs, crossers, but also Mekhi Lemon really fits that offense. Some interesting choices as well as the tight end Kenyon Sadiq, but I would look for the Rams to add a pass catcher.
All right, so much more still to come. We're going to dive back into some top stories, including